Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Matt Derrick with Chiefs Digest here. Getting as you know, a little late start with me. Not a big surprise, and apologies for not getting the post out for this earlier in the heads up. I need to get better on my scheduling to let everybody know when we're going to be doing these. We will see. My pal Nick Jacobs may be stopping by as well too if he has got the time to squeeze it into his schedule. Just before hitting the live stream, I did see, if you haven't seen yet, that the Chiefs and Royals have issued a statement essentially committing to remaining in Jackson County if Jackson County voters approve an extension of the 3/8 cent sales tax in April. We might do a separate conversation on this, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and fire them and we can talk about it from the Chiefs standpoint. I don't think that there's really any surprise here. The Chiefs have, for the most part, generally expressed the fact that they want to stay in Arrowhead Stadium, and that's what they've said in the statement today. Well, the Royals would build a stadium downtown. The Chiefs would renovate Arrowhead Stadium. It's been their intention all along. It's now in the hands of Jackson County and the voters about getting the sales tax extension on the ballot in April and approving it. If those two things don't happen, then we'll see where the Chiefs go from there. But no real big surprise from my standpoint. And like I said, we might discuss that in a separate conversation or even just answer some questions later if you all have some and want to talk about it. But getting ready for Chiefs and Chargers. It is going to be a showdown of the backups, I think, for the most part, for both teams. We'll see how many starters end up playing for the Chargers as well. But, they're already starting a backup quarterback. The Chiefs will be going with their backups as well. The 4 players who were ruled out on Friday and will be among the 7 inactives on Sunday. Rashee Rice, which means he will not be going after the Chiefs rookie record for receiving yards or for a 1,000-yard season. They're going to have him rest up that hamstring that's been bothering him. It's nothing significant, but they do just want to go ahead and let him get the rest and sit out. L'Jarius Sneed, same thing with that calf and his always sore knee. They're going to let him rest that up for another week and should be good to go. Obviously, nothing new with Sneed coming out of that last game, but he obviously went into it with the sore calf. Now they just get the chance to really get him 2 more weeks of treatment and up to speed. Kadarius Toney gave it a try on Wednesday, testing out that hip. They've also added an ankle issue to him, so he will be out as well. And Donovan Smith, who also tested out his neck on Wednesday, but they shut him down after that. So those 4 players will be out. Patrick Mahomes is listed as doubtful. Now, he's listed with an ankle. He was a full participant all week. I mean, that doubtful aspect is just simply the NFL code for your starter sitting out, even though the Andy Reid's already said he is not going to play. So there are 5 of your 7 inactives for the Chiefs on Sunday. There'll be 2 more added to that. We'll see what their situation is. I mean, a good indication of who else is, what guys are going to play, what not going to play. George Karlaftis and Mike Dana still listed as full participants on Friday, but are listed as questionable, but not injury related, just coaching decisions. So Trent McDuffie with the shoulder is also listed as questionable. Nick Bolton, the wrist, abdomen, also questionable, and Isaiah Pacheco, quad, shoulder, questionable. Wouldn't be a huge surprise to me if the Chiefs listed Pacheco and Bolton amongst their inactives. That might round out the 7. There will be guys who are active but do not play. So I would certainly expect like a McDuffie maybe in that category that may be active, but doesn't necessarily mean that they'll see any snaps. And we did get a little bit of insight as to, who is going to play and where they will play. Nick Allegretti mentioned that he is going to be starting center. Now, with the Chiefs, we know that they're going to elevate Chris Oladokun as one of their 2 practice squad candidates to come up. They can elevate a second practice squad player, and we'll see if that's an offensive lineman. Last week it was Keontae Ingram, which it may very well be again this week with Isaiah Pacheco, being one of those guys who are down, and you would like to have some numbers there. I mean, if not, then you're really just talking about going into that game with Clyde who has been dealing with his illness, and Michael P. Ryan is your only two running backs. And remember, Chiefs lost a running back in Week 17, in the last game of the season in 2017, and Akeem Hunt when he fractured his ankle, and Anthony Sherman had to finish the game as your running back. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe those were the two practice squad players who were promoted, Chris Oladokun and Keontae Ingram. That would give you a backup running back. Chiefs have plenty of defensive backs, linebackers, defensive line. They really don't need numbers anywhere else. Offensive line's the one thing because they only have 3 backups on the 53-player roster. So they would need to have some starters play. So obviously no concerns with having Wanye Morris play left tackle. But it did sound like that Joe Tooney, even Creed, Trey Smith might rotate in for a few snaps here and there at certain positions along the interior just to kind of get them through the game. Lucas Niang will probably, I'm guessing, play right tackle and may play the entire time out there. And then Mike Caliendo is going to play extensively on the interior. And like I said, it may just be that Tooney, Humphrey, Trey Smith, some combination of those 3 players fill out the other spot on the offensive line. So we'll see how it goes, but that's at least an early glimpse into what the Chiefs are going to do. Defensively, I mean, it'll be the same way. You're going to see them back off as many of their starters as they can and let the young guys play a lot. I'm interested in seeing a lot of them. I mean, the Chiefs, you've got some guys like B.J. Thompson, Neil Farrell that we really haven't seen this season. So would like to see that. Cam Jones is a guy that we've seen a lot on special teams, but not on defense. So I'm interested in that. I would assume that you're going to see a lot of Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams in the secondary. But I also want to see Nick Jones and Eko Boydo. I wouldn't be surprised if they played most, if not all, of the second half once they get into the game. So a lot of interesting looks, a lot of young guys that the Chiefs are going to get a chance to see this weekend. And, that's one of the things that was definitely the tone of this locker room this week was with these young guys playing is have fun. Blaine Gabbert said it on Wednesday that was kind of his message to the young guys on offense is just go out there and have fun. It was a very loose and relaxed locker room on Friday. There was a little one-on-one basketball going on between Travis Kelce and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Very lighthearted, but Travis did spike the basketball at one point. And if you've ever seen pictures of the Chiefs locker room, it's a tall space. It's not a very big space. The lockers are kind of squeezed in there, but it's very tall. I mean, it's at least 2 stories, maybe 3 stories tall with the ceilings. And Travis spiked the basketball and knocked loose one of the ceiling tiles. So maybe that's one of the things that they can work on when they renovate Arrowhead is working on the ceiling tiles in the practice facility. But a very, very relaxed locker room. These guys were, obviously in pretty good spirits. So I know the veterans are having a lot of fun with the young guys that are getting to play this week. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into some of the questions. I see some of you have got some things posted, and we'll touch on these subjects. So anything that you want to know about where this team sits going into Week 18 against the Chargers, let me know, and we'll wrap up this week of preparation and practice before the Chiefs hit the road. But the first one up, Wand MB wanting to know about the Justin Ross illness. Doesn't appear to be too much of it. He was listed as a full participant on Wednesday, and then they took him off the injury report on Thursday and Friday. So it looks like he's good to go. And I was really intrigued with when Blaine Gabbert, mentioning him and KT specifically as guys who could get some time this week. Now we know KT is not going to play. But Justin Ross will. We'll see how much he plays. I mean, he's going to play more than he has. Does that mean it's going to be more like 60 snaps or more like 30 or 40? I mean, I still think it's probably going to be in that second group. I think they're going to have a few of the backups play a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lot of Richie James, a lot of Justin Ross. Benefit to that as well. And I mean, there's a possibility, obviously, that third practice squad spot could go to a receiver. They've got a couple of guys, Cornell Powell, Montrell Washington. But I think it's interesting, to remember that when you're talking about Blaine Gabbert going in there, when he's running scout team and he's playing that number 2 quarterback role, he's working more with the guys that are further down on the depth chart. So the guys that he's working with as his receivers on the scout team all season long are your Washingtons, your Powells, your Justin Ross, some Richie James, even though he's been hurt. I mean, he's had some scout team snaps. Those are the guys. So, there's certainly a argument to be saying, hey, give Blaine as many of the upper end of the receivers that he can have. Now he's not going to have Rashee Rice, so he won't have this team's best receiver out there. But he's going to have guys that he's worked with all season. And, remember in 2017 when Patrick Mahomes started that final game in place of Alex Smith, and it was the second team offense, he had a big day with Albert Wilson, and Albert Wilson was one of his guys. That was a guy that, saw a lot of snaps on the scout team and played a lot with Mahomes throughout the entire year. So they had some chemistry. So in this case, hey, Blaine's going to have some players out there that he's worked with a lot. And I think that Justin Ross is going to be one of those guys. Kale368, what are you looking to see with the young players on Sunday? Really, I mean, the biggest thing I like to see when these young guys get a chance to play in the final week of the season is just that it's not too big for them. I mean, it is really, to me, a lot like a preseason game. You want to see guys go out there and be comfortable, be relaxed, not tight. You hate to see, bad mistakes. Even though he wasn't a rookie or anything, once again, going back to that 2017 game when Patrick Mahomes came out and Tyler Bray went in and had a rough stretch, you hate to see that. I mean, you just want to see these young guys go in and have some success, make some plays, and just look like they belong. And I mean, I think that's important, especially for a few of the guys that haven't gotten really any looks this season. I mean, there's a few guys at the end of the roster that have been inactive, most, if not all of the season. So getting them out there this weekend, you just kind of want to see them be comfortable out there. So, and especially don't get hurt. I mean, even if you're at the bottom of the roster, this is not a game that you want to see any injuries. And that's the tough thing. I mean, I mentioned that Keem Hunt injury back in 2017. You don't want to see anything like that. Just get in, have some fun, win or lose, and get out of there and get ready for the playoffs next week. Kale's following up. If some of the guys really show up, what could that change going into the playoffs? I don't know it would change a lot. I mean, I think that the one guy that I'm still perplexed about how much he's been used and his role has been Richie James on the offensive side. That's just still baffling to me. I feel like that this is a guy that they really could have gotten more out of. But once again, I mean, Andy Reid and Matt Nagy see practice every single day, so they've got a better feel and grasp of the situation than certainly I do. But I mean, if I saw Richie James go out there and have a 100-yard game receiving, I'd kind of want to see more of him in the playoffs. Now maybe that's the case on the defensive side, that we see somebody have a big game that proves, hey, wait a minute, this is somebody who maybe you do need to get some reps during the postseason. If Felix goes out and has a big game, then maybe you are more comfortable. I think it's a bigger deal for the young backups, as far as, proving that maybe that they belong in the postseason. Because, once you get to the playoffs, I mean, you do want to kind of tighten up your bench a little bit. You're maybe not going to go as deep. Your starters will get more snaps. That's where, I mean, an impressive performance by a guy like Felix could mean that he does get more reps. It's not going to change depth charts. There's not going to be, any changes like that. Nobody's going to lose their job in week 17 or week 18. So we will go from there and see. John Johnson, how long is Cook out for? That topic came up. Our good friend Nick Jacobs asked Andy Reid about that today, about the possibility of Jerick McKinnon and Brian Cook coming back. And Andy did punt on it mostly, just saying that we will see. I think it's probably more likely that Brian Cook could be back in the postseason than Jerick McKinnon. McKinnon's, obviously made a comment this week about, not being around the facility and missing his dogs in the locker room. That's usually pretty telling about as far as where a player is in their rehab, that if they're not in the building, that, they're obviously doing their rehab and recovery elsewhere. So Now it's been a while since we've seen Brian Cook too. Sometimes schedules are just a little bit different. Sometimes like a guy like Brian Cook may be getting treatment at a time when it's open to the media, so it's hard to tell there. But I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, between those two, I would expect to see Brian Cook back before I'd see Jerick McKinnon. So Dr. Ozzy, is Gabbert playing the whole game, or do you think they let Oladokun get some minutes? I would imagine Blaine may play the entire game. I mean, I think it'd be great to see Chris Oladokun get some snaps. Yeah, he's obviously worked really hard for this team in the last couple of years, and he's gotten obviously some time in the preseason. But like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I know that the Chiefs don't want to put guys into a bad situation, or maybe they have a negative experience, and maybe the Tyler Bray situation does play a little bit into it, because I know when Andy was asked earlier this week if Chris might, get some snaps, he was kind of hesitant about it. So maybe that's his way of, trying to just disguise his hand a little bit. Maybe we'll be surprised and Chris plays a lot. But I think that, this is, I think, a situation where they just want to get Blaine as many snaps as possible. Honestly, I mean, I think that the only way I'd probably see Chris Oladokun getting into the game for a significant number of snaps would be if it's just a blowout one way or the other. If the Chiefs have a big win or Chargers have a big lead, then maybe you do see the Chris go in there. But yeah, I do think Gabbert's going to play most of this game. They do like the idea of having him ready to go in the postseason if anything happens to Mahomes and he's needed to come in, and this is an opportunity to keep him sharp. So. Do you think Niang could be better than Juwan Taylor? Tough to say. I mean, because we really haven't seen Lucas Niang since the surgery, and where he's at, it's really just been some limited preseason time. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Juwan Taylor, I mean, I think that the general consensus and the grading on him is that when he hasn't committed penalties, he's been doing a good job. So yeah, the penalties are a problem, but no, I mean, I think that the depth chart speaks for itself. I mean, the Chiefs do feel like that Judge Juwan is the superior player at this point. Now, could Lucas, prove them wrong with extended time? I mean, that's a question. I mean, we'll see. I mean, maybe we'll get that opportunity. I don't think it's going to happen this year. We'll see what happens next year in the preseason, with Lucas. But no, I mean, I think the Chiefs right now view that as a fairly sizable gap as far as that. But a lot of that just comes back to experience. And Lucas, after the opt-out year and the surgery, he's had a lot of challenges, and give him credit, he has fought through it. I mean, he has done a really good job to get back to where he is and get back to 100%. Now, he needs the opportunity, and we'll see if he gets it. But I think that the contract and just how the Chiefs will handle a situation with Juwan, I think speaks pretty volumes about where they think that those two players are. James, are we seeing Justin Ross fades? You might get one. You might get one or two. I mean, Chiefs should, if he's going to be out there for a significant number of snaps, they should throw him some fades. I mean, that's his strength, his bread and butter, right? Let's see if they do it. Ozzy, do you think they end up placing KT on IR if he continues not to be able to play, or do they feel like he'll be back for the playoffs? I mean, clearly they felt like he was pretty close this week if they put him back out there on Wednesday to test that hip and see where he's at. It doesn't seem like at this point that it's anything that they think is season ending that's going to require, immediate surgery or repair or anything of that nature. So remember, at this point, if they place him on IR right now, I mean, it would be essentially out for the season. I mean, you got to miss those 4 games. So unless they placed him on IR tomorrow, he would be out through the Super Bowl. So anybody going on IR after tomorrow is essentially a season ender. I think they're going to try and see. I mean, we'll see how long the season goes, obviously, but they felt like there was a possibility he could play this week. So I don't get the sense that they're ready to shut KT down yet. So we will see what happens going forward. Brian Green, isn't it right to just pay Jones his bonus so they keep him fresh for the playoffs? I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, there are some minor salary cap considerations to it, is my understanding. If you pay my understanding is that if you pay a bonus that isn't earned, it's calculated differently. So it would count against the Chiefs salary cap right now. Now you can also, you could tell Chris you're going to pay it, and then pay him later. After the season, is over. I mean, there are different ways to kind of handle it. But yeah, I think the Chiefs, one way or the other, are going to reward Chris and give him his bonus, even if he doesn't play. And I don't think he's going to play. I think would be good to get him some rest. He definitely, along with some of the other guys, needs it. So I think that the Chiefs will end up working it out. Like I said, really the tough thing to handle it is cap wise, because if I remember correctly, and I keep trying to do this so I can come in and always tell you guys where the Chiefs are salary cap wise every day, because they don't have a lot of room. Let's see here. NFLPA, give me that salary cap report. The Chiefs, I think it was 1.89 the other day, and 1.689 today. So if the Chiefs were going to cut Chris a check for his 1.25 million, right now they'd have $400,000 under the cap. Now, it was calculated differently in his contract because it was concluded as an option in his contract. So they were able to spread any incentives that he made this year over into next year. But if you reward a player with a bonus that he didn't earn, that gets calculated a little differently. Casey Harold, I got see your question. I'm going to come back to it in a minute because I did talk about it a little bit at the top, but I do want to circle back to the statement that the Chiefs and the Royals made today. Brandon, what is your takeaway if Kelce gets another 1,000-yard season? Where would you rank him all time? I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter. I mean, he does not need to get 1,000 yards this season to change my ranking. He is the best tight end of all time. I might quibble and say that there's some players who have been very good at other specific things than he was. I think Tony Gonzalez and probably Antonio Gates, maybe Gronkowski were better red zone targets. But I think that Travis was a better open field target than all three of those guys. Maybe one or two of them were better blockers than Travis is. But I think from just talking about an all-around tight end standpoint of the modern NFL, Travis is number one to me. I mean, I don't think it's much of an argument. I mean, I saw Tony Gonzalez play in Kansas City. I mean, he was special, but I still see Travis do things that I don't think I ever saw Tony Gonzalez do on the field. And at the same time, I mean, seeing Tony Gonzalez work the back of the end zone was also one of the most incredible things that I've ever watched on a football field. But I think that Travis is better. He's better than all those guys. So to me, as far as, tight ends of the modern era that I'd say, the last 40 years, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, Travis is the best to me. The only guy I think once again, I'm probably a bit of a Mizzou homer, but I'll go back to Kellen Winslow. Watching him play, he was amazing when I was a kid, and him being a Mizzou guy probably made it a little bit more special. John, do you think Prince can make an impact in the running game? I mean, that's a tough thing because with Prince, they've already used up his practice squad elevation, so he can't come up unless they put him on the 53. So we'll see. I mean, they can still use him in the postseason. There's some of the practice squad elevations reset in the postseason, so we'll see if they could get him on the field. But for the most part, you're just talking about Prince into the future, and I still see a lot of potential. I mean, I think that he probably needed a growing year. This was probably going to be a good season for him to just kind of learn a little bit and mature and grow a little bit. But we'll see going forward. Go for KC forever. MVS still getting most of the reps in practice. I mean, we don't get to see the really bulk of practice. We don't get to, the media only gets to see the open portion practice, open to the media. But my understanding is, this week, I mean, obviously the team usually breaks into two groups. There's the starters, and then there's a secondary, area for the backups. And, my understanding is that, I mean, this week was mostly about getting the backups ready to play. So probably not as much for MVS this week, but I mean, honestly, I mean, I know a couple of questions about, in the comments and over here about MVS. He's still one of the guys, and I've not yet seen or heard any indication whatsoever that the Chiefs feel otherwise. So I do see there's some other comments on here, and I know that there's some also even some more statements that have come out. So I'm going to try and read some of those along with you maybe here. In case you have not heard, the Chiefs and the Royals sent out a joint statement this afternoon at 4 o'clock, which for those of anybody else who's been in public relations, you're like me, this is the take out the trash slot. Dumping a press release at 4 o'clock is usually your indication of just dumping something out, and I'm hoping people don't notice. But it was an interesting time to choose this. But saying that the Chiefs and Royals are committing themselves to staying in Jackson County if voters approve the extension of the 3/8 sales tax in April. So obviously there's some motivation right there to get the issue on the ballot. And obviously, speaking that they will, want this done. But it's really, to me, more of a statement on the Royal side of things, because this is at least their priority and commitment that they're choosing downtown Kansas City over North Kansas City as their first option and what they want to see happen. So obviously it's a motivating factor for Jackson County and the city of Kansas City to get this on the ballot. And just looking at the statement from Mayor Quentin Lucas, that retaining the Chiefs and the Royals is value for the taxpayers. Don't disagree. I think that it's something that would be good for the city to get done. Like I said, to me, I don't think from the Chiefs standpoint, it's much of a surprise. Now, what the Chiefs did say, at least in the joint statements, so you can ascribe it to both of them. But Chiefs and Royals will announce their commitment to remain in Jackson County if Jackson County voters approve an extension of the 3/8 sales tax on a ballot initiative this April. As part of the proposed agreement between the teams and Jackson County, both teams have agreed to provide more than $200 million in new economic benefits to Jackson County over 40 years in a new lease agreement, alleviating the county's obligation to pay stadium insurance premiums as well. The Royals will build a new downtown stadium and privately fund a $1 billion ballpark district. The Chiefs will conduct an extensive renovation to iconic Arrowhead Stadium. That is absolutely as part of the Chiefs' statement for quite a while now, that their preference is to stay in Arrowhead. The 40-year number is interesting in that, that would, in theory, be a tacking on of their current lease. Now, 40 years from now, so you're talking 2064 that the Chiefs would be, committing themselves to, in theory, because what the Chiefs have really been talking about has been more like a 25-year extension of Arrowhead Stadium's life as part of this agreement. Now they've got 8 years left, so there's some math that's a little loosey-goosey. I mean, maybe it's, they're including this as being 40 years for the Royals and not really including the Chiefs as part of that 40 years, whatever the 40 years may be. Because the Chiefs, what Clark Hunt has consistently really talked about has been about 25 years on top of the current lease, which would really, if I remember correctly, take the Chiefs through 2056. Now, and the teams are saying that they have not sought any increase in the existing sales tax and have committed to providing the county with additional benefits, including paying for insurance coverages for their respective facilities. That's, I think, a little bit of inside baseball and political gamesmanship. If you saw the report about how that supposedly the county was hiding the cost of the project by saying that the insurance costs were not being properly accounted for, and therefore that the Royals Stadium was going to cost a lot more than was being let on. The reality of it is it's not really that much, but now the Royals and the Chiefs are saying that they're going to cover the cost of it, which will be about $80 to $100 million. Now it's an opportunity for them to say they're going to cover the cost, so you have to include that in the public money. But it also gives them a chance to, say, oh, hey, we're giving you a benefit of $100 million. Just paying a bill. But it's, hey, political gamesmanship. It's what you got to do sometimes. Also providing the county the ability to reallocate each team's share of an existing park property tax for other county uses for the extension term of the Chiefs lease and the new Royals lease. This will allow the county to utilize $140 million for other county purposes. And the teams are committed to entering a robust community benefits agreement similar to agreements provided by other NFL and Major League Baseball teams for other venues for various initiatives that will benefit the citizens of Jackson County. That's a little bit more nebulous, but we'll see what that means. But like I said, from a Chiefs standpoint, to me, probably much ado about nothing. I mean, everybody knows that the Chiefs have made their preference known for quite a while, that they want to stay at Arrowhead Stadium, that they want to renovate. Now, is there always a possibility that something could happen that would make renovating Arrowhead Stadium impractical? Sure. I mean, it is a 50-plus-year-old facility, so hey, they talk about every once in a while about the infrastructure of the place, being questionable in some places, but by and large, my understanding is that all of the analysis and surveys that they've had done of Arrowhead believes that they could affordably extend the life of Arrowhead for another 25 years beyond the lease. So that is definitely been Clark Hunt's preference. It's the Chiefs' preference. So there's no doubt. I mean, this is what they want to get done. So if the county is able to get the 3/8 sales tax extension on the ballot for April and the voters approve it, Chiefs will renovate Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, that's what we're pretty much down to. So to me, like I said, I think this is just really a bigger news from the Royal standpoint, since they're the ones had been kind of dragging their feet a little bit and hadn't really come clear with what was their primary site. And I don't see anything in the statement that specifically tells you which of the downtown sites that they do favor, but it does say indeed that they're committing to downtown Kansas City if the voters approve the sales tax. So they've at least made their first choice over North Kansas City that it will be downtown. KD Hawk is looking ahead to the playoffs. Who should the Chiefs want to win, Bills or Dolphins? I mean, the Bills and Dolphins game decides pretty much everything. There's still 5 teams that the Chiefs could face in the wild card round, but I mean, I'm pretty clear. I think as a Chiefs fan, I think you want the Dolphins to win that game. I think that the one place I don't think you want to play a postseason game if you're the Chiefs is you don't want to go to Orchard Park. You don't want to go to Buffalo. So I think you want the Dolphins to win that game for that reason alone. I think the Chiefs can beat the Dolphins anywhere. I don't think it needs to be at Arrowhead. I think they can beat them in Miami. So I don't think the location is a significant factor there. But if you get the Bills down to the 6 or the 7 seed, then you're going to face the Bills at Arrowhead. But there's also the benefits. I mean, if the Bills were to end up as the 7 seed, and now they play the Dolphins next week, and now either the Dolphins or the Bills are gone. The Chiefs are left with either the Steelers, Texans, or Colts. That's, to me at least, the prime. That would be the ideal first wild card round for the Chiefs. You get Houston, Colts, or the Steelers, and the Dolphins and Bills have to take one of each other out. And then, depending on how that matchup falls, either the Bills or the Browns would be going to, and that gets that situation if if the Bills ended up being one of those bottom seeds, Bills go to Buffalo or go to Baltimore rather. I mean, there's a way that the playoffs could fall where the Chiefs might end up going through, say, the Colts, Texans, or Steelers, then Cleveland, and then maybe host an AFC Championship game. I mean, that scenario is on the table. So, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm rooting for Miami. Get that number 2 seed. I think they would be the weaker 2 seed. Get even if you have to play the Bills as a 6 seed at Arrowhead next weekend, I think that's preferable than the prospect of having to go to Buffalo as the 2 seed the following weekend. So that's how I would go about it. But your mileage may vary. You may have a different choice. You got one. Let us know. Fire away. Dr. Ozzie back. Is your sense going to be the Morris moving forward at left tackle regardless of Smith's injury status? I think we're reaching that point, Ozzie. I mean, I think it's getting more and more likely that we'll see that depending on when Donovan Smith comes back, whether he comes back as the backup or the starter. It wouldn't surprise me if Wanye went ahead and just stayed in that spot. He's, I think, performed well. I think you'd really have to see Wanye have an extended period of struggling before they went back. Now, I mean, hey, Andy Reid is usually a guy that, veterans, and especially in the playoffs, that's their time. But the fact that Donovan gave it a try this week and they shut him down after Wednesday would suggest that he's still a little ways off. So that's the tough thing. I mean, switching off in the playoffs, especially if Wanye is playing, I mean, and they win next week. I mean, you got a couple of wins now with your rookie left tackle. I mean, shaking things up and going to a guy who hasn't played for a while now. It's six of one, half dozen of another. I mean, you're probably getting some pluses and some minuses, but I think Wanye's playing well, at least well enough right now that, he could conceivably, be the starter for going forward for the rest of the season and for next year too. Go for KC forever. When is the soonest McKinnon can come back? I believe the soonest would be next week. I think this will be the third game that he's missed. So after the wild card round, I believe would be the fourth game that he's missed. I still don't think that's going to happen. I mean, Andy said today, we'll see on both his return and Brian Cook's return, but I think it's going to be a while, and I'm not even sure that that Derrick may be able to return this year. I mean, it may be a while, so we will see. Brandon Patterson, Matt, who is your favorite Chiefs player of all time? Gosh, that is a hard one, because I think I told you guys the other night, when I was growing up, my first favorite Chiefs player of all time when I was a kid was Joe Delaney, and obviously grew up with the Chiefs in the late '80s and '90s. So, gosh, Christian Okoye, Derrick Thomas, those guys were all so great. I'm trying to eliminate any players that are playing right now for any personal bias, because there's guys on this team obviously I like off the field because I've just gotten to know them in a different way, and so that's so I'll avoid any bias by just ruling out the current players. But I mean, I guess the guy I idolized the most growing up and everything, and became a Chief, was Joe Montana. So even though he was only here a couple of years, gosh, I just remember when Joe Montana came to Kansas City, that was the absolute most amazing thing ever. So yeah, that's a really tough one. And Brandon, and honestly, you could ask me that question every day, and I might give you a different answer every day. I mean, I love Nick Lowry. I mean, because he was the kicker of me growing up. So, you could always trust Nick Lowry. You never had to curse your kicker when you had Nick the kick around. So, and I liked Steve DeBerg. I mean, I liked him, even though the Chiefs didn't win anything. I like Steve DeBerg, all the guys on defense. I mean, Okoye was so fun to watch run though, and everything. So, that's a tough one. Like I said, you could ask me that question both days, I'd give you a different answer, but the Joe Montana being a Chief was really amazing. I will say that. Matt Bushman, I'd love to see Matt Bushman. I mean, the tough thing is on Friday, or on Sunday, is that Chiefs have 2 practice squad elevations, and you're using one on Chris Oladokun. So who will be the other one? Honestly, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it were a tight end. If they don't have Travis play, even if they only want Travis to go out there and get a couple of snaps, I mean, then you're left with just Blake Bell and Noah Gray to handle the bulk of the work. And, getting one of those guys injured, yeah, it'd be a concern for me. So I kind of feel like that second practice squad elevation is going to be an offensive player, either a receiver, running back, or tight end. We will see, but I would like to see Matt Bushman. I mean, I think I really like what we saw in the preseason and training camp. So I'd like to see him. I've been impressed with him, and I know he's been working hard on the field and off the field this year to improve. Canadian Chief thinks front office will pay Jones sack bonus if he doesn't play. I think they would. I think they will eventually. I mean, I think they'll try and make it up to him. Like I said, there's some salary cap implications that they got to have to deal with. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was after the regular season, postseason were concluded, and see what happens. But no, if Chris doesn't play on Sunday, I think they'll try and find some way to make it up to him. And who knows? Maybe it's already been done and we don't even know about it. So you never know. We won't go too long tonight. I know it's a Friday night and people have got things going on, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I definitely want to get in all the questions. So if you do have anything, fire away in the comments, and I will definitely make sure to get it. CLX CH21 with the picture of Pacheco there. What player are you excited to see this week? I mentioned this early on too, but I'll throw out some other names. I mean, I'm a dork, so I do like the guys in the trenches. You know, I'm a big guy myself, so those are my guys. I mentioned some of the other players to begin with, but I do want to see Mike Caliendo. I want to see Lucas Niang. I want to see what these guys are up to. I think it's great. Nick Allegretti is going to get his first NFL start at center. We talked to him today, and he was pretty excited about that. So he hasn't started a game at center in the NFL. He started some at guard. I want to say I'd have to go back and look at his snap counts. I want to say he's probably taken a few snaps at center, at least in a preseason game. But this was mentioned was going to be his first start since college, so at center. So looking forward to that. And hey, we get to see Neil Farrell. Should get to see BJ Thompson, and I'm really intrigued about him. I kind of want to see him in an NFL game and what's going on. So I'll be definitely watching the young guys. I like this, and definitely like to be able to see how they handle all the situation. Jeremy, your favorite Chiefs coach of all time then? Oh, that one's a little easier. Once again, I'm going to exclude current company because I don't think that's fair for the people that I cover to either include them or exclude them. So I'm just going to rule that out as a list because I don't want to be biased or anything. So when you throw that in there, Marty, I mean, what he did for this town, I don't think that he gets enough credit for. That alone, I think probably should put him in the NFL Hall of Fame because he did that in a couple of places. I mean, he put Cleveland back on the map as a football team and really changed that city. I mean, even though I know they lost their team and everything, I mean, that Browns identity, I mean, he did everything he could to save that franchise. And honestly, he saved the Chiefs franchise. This team was lost. This organization was lost. And he rebuilt it. And yeah, they had some tough times after he left and they had some mistakes. But I think that, what Marty built in the 90s in Kansas City, it still exists. Because anytime you're bragging about the fans at Arrowhead, anything of that nature, all of that still stems back to Marty because none of that existed before him. And so much of that was just born of him believing that was how you built a franchise and you built a fan base, was to get the crowd involved and to get their support and all the traditions that we really talk about with the Chiefs. So many of them were born in the 90s. I mean, there's very little that goes beyond that. And because the 80s in Arrowhead was just depressing. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I've run into that, say they were there for like the Stephon Page game when he set the NFL record for receiving yards. Well, there was only like 16,000 people in the building that day. And I think I've run into like 300,000 that said they were there. So, I mean, the Chiefs were not a thing. And I grew up in Springfield at that time, and, the Chiefs were not a thing, but they were in the 90s because of Marty. So that one's an easy one for me. Marty was a lot of fun to watch. Never got to cover him, never got to meet him, unfortunately, but would have loved to. Primetime Gala, Stafford lit it up versus the vaunted Browns defense. We don't think Mahomes can do that too? I think he can. I mean, Browns defense is good, but I would be interested to see how the Chiefs match up against that. I think there's Gunther. Hey, Angry Junction German, I'm not going to disagree with you. Gunther was a good coach as well. Maybe not the greatest head coach of all time, but a great defensive coordinator and a wonderful character. Oh, KD, you and I have the same favorite player, Joe Montana, the player that got me to love football. Yeah, I that's the thing about Joe. I just remembered the circus when he came to town. I mean, that was obviously before social media and all that stuff. But I mean, this was 1990, what 293, and you had helicopters flying overhead chasing Joe Montana through the streets of Kansas City. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. And yeah, I had a someone for Christmas one year that when he got to Kansas City, got me a Joe Montana like stuffed doll that was a 49er, but we dressed him up in a Chiefs uniform. So Kathy Welch, do you see FAU needing this game to stay in KC? No, and that's something that I talked to Joe Cullen about quite a bit this week. I had a chance to talk to him before his press conference, and Steve Spagnuolo talked about this too. I mean, Felix, his season has really gone to a degree as the Chiefs expected. They never really thought that they were going to need Felix this year. He was drafted with the knowledge and the understanding that they had a gap in their roster in 2024 going forward, where they were going to need a pass rusher. And in Felix, they felt like that they were getting, in the first round, they were getting a guy that obviously would give them that fifth-year option so they could control an extra year, but also a young guy who projected to be even better than he was now, and somebody who's going to be probably better in years 2, 3, 4, and 5 than in year one. Because remember, he's ridiculously young. I don't think he's turned 22 yet. I mean, I think he's still 21. This is 21-year season. And then on top of that, he's a late bloomer. I mean, literally 3 years ago, he shows up at K-State and he was like, what, 5'10" and 180 pounds, something crazy like that. He's a ridiculously late bloomer. So he's still kind of, growing into his body a little bit and everything. And so this was always going to be kind of a red shirt season for him. And the idea was that if Felix played, it was going to be because they had a need. Well, look at his snaps. I mean, he played a lot, early on in the season. And that was because, Chris misses week one. Charles Omenihu was out those first 6 games of the season, and that's when they needed some help. Since Omenihu has been back, they haven't had any injuries. They haven't had anybody that they've needed him to step up for. George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, when Chris kicks outside on third downs, which was once again, I mean, that was a role that Felix played early in the season in that third down package. None of these guys are playing to the level where you say, you know what, this guy, we need to get Felix on the field. They've been comfortable with the way that he's developed. So I have absolutely zero concerns whatsoever about Felix's development. I think he is right on target. See what happens next year. I mean, next year was the year all along that the Chiefs circled. And honestly, I mean, if you saw Felix playing a lot this year, my guess would be that 90% of it would have been because too many guys got hurt, and 10% of it would be that he just blew your doors off. I mean, I think he could have blown your doors off, and he's still not been able to move up on the depth chart just because they've got older guys that have been playing well. So there just hasn't really been the opportunity for him. But make no mistake, I mean, they also feel like that if needed, he could step in. So if they need him in the playoffs, Chiefs have no hesitation whatsoever going to Felix if needed. Ozzy, nothing to do with this game, but Kelce talked about it on their pod the other day. Are you in favor of the current schedule or going 18 games with an extra bye? I haven't listened to their pod yet this week. I need to do that. So I'm assuming you're talking about 18 and going down to two preseason games as well. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of what the 17 game schedule has done with the record books. I mean, it was used to be just so clean, and and now you're going to get a new era where a lot of records end up falling because of that extra game. I mean, the unbalanced number, the odd number of games seems odd to me too. I mean, I like the old 8 and 8s, the 9 and 8s, and 8 and 9s now. It bothers me. I mean, I should be always in favor of more football, but this is what I find myself getting in my old age, is that I appreciate good football. So I would almost take less football if it was better. And that's my concern, is that, even with an extra bye, I mean, I think there should be an extra bye anyway. I mean, 17 games and everybody gets 2 byes. Fine with me. I mean, it extends the season and gives everybody, an extra week of rest. Be great if everybody could, get them at the same similar points. I mean, you have a rolling schedule a little bit and everything. That if you get an early bye, you get a late bye. There's certain times of the year you don't need a bye, but I mean, yeah, I'm fine with more football. There's nothing wrong with that. I was just like good football, and that's my only concern. And there's some crazy ideas that have been bounced out there too about how play 18 games, but everybody can only play 16. So like at least 2 games a year, you'd have to play a backup quarterback. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get any of those weird rules, but I do think that we've probably hit a maximum as far as how much the human bodies can absorb in a season and still play good football. And this year, with the number of quarterbacks and the year of the backup quarterback, maybe we're even reaching that point. Maybe we've passed it. I'll get off my old man soapbox. Let's see what else we got here. Looking through to see if there's any more questions that you all have. Really appreciate. Oh, there's some fun comments on everything going on about your favorite Chiefs and old coaches and everything. I will say, I really appreciate, the way that Marty got people excited about the Raiders and rivalries. I mean, that I think alone made football a lot of fun. If you were in the 90s in Kansas City, hating the Raiders was what sometimes was the best thing about Chiefs football. Gary with the $1 million question of the day, or the $1.25 million question of the day. Jones with his half sack, Kelce 16 yards. I don't know. I mean, I doubt that Chris Jones plays. I think that just getting a sack is too much. I mean, unless you do something contrived like the old Michael Strahan, sack to set the record that was what Favre gave it away to him. I think that's just too hard to get it for Chris. So, and I think he could use the rest. The bonus, I mean, money comes and goes, and Chris is going to make a lot of money, and maybe he'll even get that money anyway. The Kelce thing, once again, I mean, I think that the last guy who cares about it is Travis himself. I think he would appreciate the rest and the time. But hey, I think everybody in that building wants him to see him get 1,000. I think the coaches, the players, everybody would like to see him. I think that would be a big deal. So go out, run 2 tight end screens to start the game. Just maybe you do put your whole offensive line out there and just see if they can plow a hole open for Travis to get him 16 yards. That's all I would do. I mean, I think it would be great because, I mean, it's doubtful any tight end again is ever going to, match 7, much less get to 8. So you park that there. I think that would be a really neat number for Travis. And like I said, he'll probably stay in the record books for decades with that number. So let's see. Oh, Brandon missing Andre Rison, Spider-Man. There you go. Dr. Ozzy, thoughts on people saying Allen should have made Pro Bowl over Mahomes? Nonsense to me. I can see it. I mean, honestly, to me, I'm not sure. I mean, there have been a lot of kind of just average seasons. I mean, even looking at the numbers, we're talking about Patrick Mahomes having a down year, but you look at some of the numbers, and excluding rushing, of course, but his numbers and Lamar's numbers aren't that far apart. I mean, I'll listen to anybody that wants to say it, but I'll be honest. I mean, don't get too worked up over the Pro Bowl. The process is flawed. It's useful for bonuses, and that's about it. All Pro is a much bigger deal. I think L'Jarius probably has a better chance of making the Pro Bowl. Mahomes probably not, because I think Lamar and Tua are in that category. That's the thing. I mean, if you're the 3rd best quarterback, it doesn't matter to me if you make the Pro Bowl or not. I don't get too worked up over it. The Pro Bowl is such a weird thing and the way that it's all selected. I don't have a lot of faith in the process, and it's not because of the fans. I think the fan vote is fine. It's great. It's the rest of the process that the NFL kind of, shrouds in secrecy that to me makes it a little bit iffy. So I'm not that big, so I won't get too worked up over it. I mean, if you make it, it's nice. And I told this to Jason Anderson at 810 earlier today. I mean, as a Chiefs fan, you can't get too worked up over the Pro Bowl because, hey, Derrick Thomas, Tony Gonzalez made some Pro Bowls that they probably shouldn't have. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to make some Pro Bowls that he shouldn't. Yeah, it hurts when you've got a guy who should make the Pro Bowl, but Travis Ward, I think, has had probably 3 Pro Bowl seasons in a row, and this is his first. L'Jarius will get there. So I think, oftentimes, sometimes those things balance out. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you get the Mitch Schwartzes who all they do is make all pro teams and don't make Pro Bowls. But yeah, don't work it up too much. I mean, L'Jarius is rightfully one of the best corners in the league, and I think he'll get his respect soon enough. Thomas, Mike Pennel has shown you enough during his 2 games off the practice squad to earn a spot on the 53 for the playoffs. Possibly. I mean, I think he's definitely, looked good. I mean, he's done what they wanted him to do, which is kind of go in there and be a space eater in the run game. So yeah, I mean, I think he has done his job. Is there a place for them to squeeze him on there? I think that's the tough thing, but there's also some, squirrely things that you get to do with the practice squad in the playoffs. So they may not even have to do that. There might be some games when they wouldn't even need him. I mean, I don't know. If the Chiefs are playing the Dolphins, I don't know if that would be Mike Pennel would be the guy that they go to, even though the Dolphins can run the ball pretty well. I think that's, more of a speed game. So you might want a little bit, they didn't need him the first time to shut down the Dolphins run game. Mike Pennell's probably somebody you want in there if you're facing the Ravens, but yeah, I think Mike has looked good. He's looked fresh. That's, I think, the most impressive thing is just being able to come in mid-season off the street, because he wasn't on an NFL roster. He'd just been kind of sitting back waiting for his opportunity, and clearly was taking care of himself, and the rest did him some good. Go for KC with an interesting question here. Do you have to stay dressed if you are active? Staying dressed, I think, is probably the key. I mean, there are the NFL does have uniform standards and everything, so that's why, if you'll probably see the guys who are active but not playing still in uniform, even in the second half. You might see them, if they're just not going back into the game, take their pads off, maybe even not start the game with their pads on. I would imagine most of them would, because I mean, they're all still kind of in the thought process of, hey, wait a minute, you might need me to go into the game, so I should be dressed. So they'll be in uniform, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the starters, once they know they're out of the game for sure, might go padless just to be a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, primetime gala, you got me. All pro is it matters more. And I mean, like I said, Pro Bowl to me is nice, and it's acknowledgement. You should be proud of it, and the guys who made it, I mean, should absolutely be proud of it. It means something. But Pro Bowl snubs aren't anything I get too excited about, because yeah, Jalen Ramsey made it on reputation, and if on the back end of his career, L'Jarius Sneed becomes a household name, and is Jalen Ramsey in a few years and gets to make a Pro Bowl on the back end of his career that maybe he doesn't earn, it'll all balance out. So there you go. But yeah, Jalen Ramsey made it because he's Jalen Ramsey and he has a reputation, and that's what the Pro Bowl sometimes acknowledges, is reputation. Brandon, I don't know if we're going to be able to get into the Bill Belichick to the Chargers. We got a whole offseason for that, so we'll wait until the Chiefs are done before we worry about what the Chargers are going to do, or I guess the Raiders could do. But let's see. I think I don't see any more questions. So once again, if there's anything else you guys do have, any comments you want to throw in there, feel free. We'll wrap it up here in a moment. I'm with you, Marcus. Let's talk playoffs, not the Pro Bowl. Oh, Brandon, come on. I mean, I still am baffled at the idea that the Patriots wouldn't let Bill Belichick just go out on his own terms. If anybody's deserved that, I think he has. So the idea of the Patriots firing Bill Belichick just seems like the most Patriot nonsensical thing to do. But if Bill wants to stay in football and move on, why not bring him to the AFC West? Don't you want to go up against the best? I mean, you got Belichick, you got Reed, you got Sean Payton. Who else can we squeeze into the AFC West? I mean, come on. Mike Tomlin, come on over. So, well, I appreciate everybody. It's wrapped up about an hour, so I think I'll let you guys all, gals, all go and enjoy your weekend. Like I said, we might do a separate conversation when some more information comes out about what the Chiefs are talking about as far as renovating Arrowhead. I'm not sure that they were going to get a whole lot of detail this weekend. It'll probably be more down the road when we'll get into it, but you absolutely at least have some clarity now about what the Chiefs' plans are, what the Royals' plans are. Brenda, thank you. Hit that like button. Absolutely. Hit the like, subscribe. I truly appreciate everything. Always a great conversation that everybody has in the comment section. Really, truly enjoy it. If you ever have any questions, feel free to drop them on the YouTube page. Now that the holidays are over, I am pledging to you that this weekend I'm going to go through and answer my questions. So I'm going to get caught up that. I'm going to stay caught up on it. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. We'll see you after Chiefs and Chargers, where you can catch 41 is the mic with myself and Nick Jacobs. That'll be hitting your streams most likely Monday morning. Nick and I have busy broadcasting schedules and writing schedules, so it probably won't be until late Sunday night that we record that, but we will have you in the stream on Monday morning. And Cindy, what a kind thing to say. Thank you very much. You are very sweet. I appreciate that. But everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll catch up with you after the game and see who is headed to Arrowhead next weekend for Wild Card Weekend. Have a great one, and we will talk to you later. Take care, everybody.